Well, hello and welcome back. Thanks for coming back. Where are we? That's what you're wondering. Well, somewhere lost in downtown Konia, and we're heading into Paphos. And well, you may have noticed that the weather, to be honest, is not looking that good. Last night, well, if you were staying in Paphos last night, perhaps you thought you were an extra in a horror movie, because the weather was absolutely diabolical. It really was way worse than Sherlock Holmes. It was all the way up there with that man called Geoffrey Chaucer. There was wind howling around, there was hailstorms, there was rainstorms, there was a lot of things going on. But of course, if you look out the window today, all you can actually see the remnants of is that little bit of dust, because there was a little bit of a dust storm going on as well. And the wind seems to have died its death. So we're left with a bit of greyness, but we are still left with quite a nice temperature. And if you're curious to know, perhaps if your name is Miss Dawn, you got a husband called Mr. Sean, a little cat called Miss Daisy, and a dog called Bobo. The temperature today, at the moment, 11 o'clock in the morning, is in and around 25 degrees, so it's not too bad. They are promising us one around about 28 today, but a bit of doom and gloom up in the skies, as we can see. But it's still a spectacular day on the island of love in downtown Paphos. Road surfaces, well, they are still Sherlock Holmes. So if your name is Lady so sweet Caroline, get your bottom on a memory foam pillow. But just before you do, pour a tot or two for the superstar known as Lord Nigel Big Guns. Now, talking about sweetness, there's another girl who likes to tune into the show now and again, and she is the sweetest of sweetnesses, and her name is not Miss Brandy. Oh, no. Her name is Miss Sherry Wright, and she's always right. So if your name is Mr. Daniel Mahoney, make sure that you are a good boy, and make sure that you look after that little bit of sweetness that is in your life. And we're looking forward to seeing you in June or thereabouts, isn't it, when you mosey on down to Paphos. And don't forget to come and hunt us down, or drop it in the comments, and we will be coming and hunting you down, because we would love to see you again, Daniel, and of course Miss Sweetness, Miss Sherry. Hopefully you are recovering very quickly and very well indeed. A very good morning to you. Now, if you're wondering how this little show is funded, the little channel known as Marika and Me, well, there's a little platform, and it's called Buy Me a Coffee. Now, you can find that by going through to our About page and clicking on the little Buy Me a Coffee icon, or you can Google Buy Me a Coffee Marika and Me, or Marika and Me Buy Me a Coffee, and you'll find that platform. And we thank you very kindly from the bottom of our two hearts for every person that hunts us down, and for every contribution to the channel. Thank you very much indeed. Now, you can also become one of our members. So in other words, taking all the complexities out of it, and it just happens automatically. And if you do that, well, you're entitled to certain privileges. And of course, if your name is Mr. Anthony and your wife-to-be is Miss Christina, you understand that you are no longer a Mr. Oh, no. You are a lord, and of course Christina is a lady. So thanks for going through and becoming one of our superstar members. We thank you very much indeed. Now, some more shout outs to some of the crew. Well, the girl in charge of most things at the moment, she's moseying on down and lazing on down in downtown Paphos, and her name is Dame Anne, and she's moseying on a sunbed down to the rear of the hotel known as Alexander the Great. And today, probably she's not doing that much sunbathing, so probably we're going to go and find her a bit later and drag her along the promenade, and you never know, we might get her to dance a jig or two, especially for Mr. Andy and Miss Nessie all the way out there in Shropshire. And you never know, we might even get JJ My Tonic and her Mr. Andy to dance on the TV screens as well. Big shout out to you guys, and hopefully Ollie the dog is alright as well. There's a few dogs who like to watch the show, you know. We've got Mr. Barney, who's owned by a superstar known as Miss Ellie, and now and again he nips around to the lady so sweet Caroline's house, because he understands he can be that little bit naughtier there, because the lady, well, she's a very nice lady indeed. As for Nigel, I think he puts his foot up his bottom quite often, and that's when he's not perusing the Breitling watch catalogue. Big shout out to some other superstars. There's a couple of lords in downtown Cardiff. I mean, they're hanging on for their dear lives. One of these days they might find themselves as a couple of toilet attendants. You never know. I think Jeremy enjoyed that little mosey on down a while back when he was demoted to a janitor on the request of his brother Simon. So that's the two twins, the two lords, Lord Simon and Lord Jeremy, or as I call them, a couple of babes. There we are. Right, where are we? Well, we're heading up to the rear of, what should we call it? Well, to our left, obviously there's some houses, but behind those houses, if you go across country for a little bit, there is a road called the Mesogi Avenue, and that's the road with all the big shops and the car dealers and that kind of thing. So that road's over there, and then to my right is Armu and Konia. So we're sort of cutting up from Anavargos, and we're going to come out on the top of the Mesogi roundabout, and Trimark Motors will be on our left hand side. We're going to go straight over that roundabout, not literally, we're going to go round it a little bit, and then we're going to come up to where my favourite coffee shop is, and that coffee shop is the Atlas coffee shop. And now and again I get to bump into people in there, and my favourite superstar that I've ever met there, his name is Mr. Philip, and he lives up in Camaras with his spectacular wife, and her name is Miss Slater. I think that's how I say it, and I say it very quickly, and please apologise, because everyone knows that my pronunciation is absolutely Sherlock Holmes, but I know that she's a superstar, and I know that she looks after Mr. Philip very well indeed. And why are we going up here? Because there is a man in a black Mercedes with no number plates apparently that tried to run over Mr. Philip. So we're looking for that man, and when we find him, we're going to overtake him, and we're going to drive nice and slowly just to annoy the living daylights out of him. That's what happens when you come up behind Mr. Paul, or when you upset Mr. Paul. If you stick your car at my bottom, I just go slower and get wider just to annoy you that little bit more, because I'm never in a rush to go anywhere. I really am not. I am a man of leisure, shall we say. Well, I do actually work, by the way, and I do work quite long hours, but I'm not complaining. But I don't believe you should rush around, and I don't believe that you should stick your car's front end up someone else's bottom. That's what I think. And I know there's many people who agree with me. So if you are driving around, please treat the fellow world with a little bit of respect. That's the coffee shop there on the left hand side, by the way. We're going to take a left and go towards Tremathusa, and we're heading out towards Tala because we're looking for this black Mercedes. And the two boys, the twins, they're in the back, the couple of panes, and they are sharpening their mallets, because when we find this chappie, we're going to give him a damn good malleting, especially for Mr. Phil. There we are. Tremathusa, that's where we are. This is Tremathusa village. This is the main road through that takes you to Tala. If you go left anywhere here, you go into the lower village and down to the big church and the main expat area, which is just to the rear of the big church. There's probably a couple of hundred villas down there, I would say, in total, if you count them all up. And most of them are owned by foreign nationals or so. Coming up just down here on the right hand side is a car dealer, and it's an English car dealer. His name's Neil and her name is Alison. A&W Cars. You see, A for Alison, N for Neil, W is for Wishart, and they've been here since I got to Cyprus, and he sold a car or two, and now and again we get into bed together, and I'm just driving past looking at his forecourt to see what he's got. There we are. Some very overpriced cars indeed. He does like to charge a fair figure, but he does have a very good reputation, and he's a very honourable man. In fact, he's almost as honourable as me. Anyway, enough on that. We're heading out towards Tala, and if you do like what you see, by the way, why not hit that like, click the subscribe, and perhaps come back for a little bit more of my insanity, because if you continue to watch the Mr. Paul's Breakfast Club, as it's called, you will slowly but surely find your way around Paphos. And if there's somewhere special that you'd like me to go, drop it in those comments, and perhaps a coffee or two, and that video may come especially for you. And well, I know you're watching the weather, because I understand most people watching Paphosy channels, should we say, Cyprusy channels, are looking for the weather, and it looks like a bit of a horror movie, doesn't it? It really does. And it's getting scarier as we climb up into the dust cloud. That's what it is. Tala's coming up. That is the Zemeldos area, the posh area on the right hand side there. If you want to buy a property up there, to be honest, I don't think you're going to get one for less than €500,000, and you're probably going to have to pay quite a lot more. So there's one or two rich people up there, and luckily one or two of them are my customers. So now and again I get to go up there and have a little rummage in their wallets. Now and again, that's for sure. Now, big shout out to my lawyer. She's the superstar, and she's living in downtown Poland, not far from Krakow, which is a beautiful city. It really, really is. And of course, she's a superstar, and her name is Miss Anna Star. Yes, believe it or not, her surname is Star. And she is my superstar, Miss Anna Star. And they had a great pleasure to come to Paphos not long ago, and I had the honour to meet them and go for coffee once or twice. Her husband was with her, Mr. Tomas, superstar, and a monster of a man, by the way. He's like an Arnold Schwarzenegger version in Poland. And then their son, great friend of mine, Mr. Bart. And hopefully we will see you again next year. And if not, well, we're going to pop over and we'll come and see you. We're going to turn down this big hill here in the, well, we're in Midtown Tala, and we're going to head down towards downtown Tala. So here we are. The amphitheatre, that's there on the right hand side, and there's a restaurant taverna to the rear of that. Great views from up here normally, but of course today it's a little bit dusty, isn't it? A bit Sherlock Holmes is what it is. A lot of building going on in Tala as usual. There's always someone with a couple of bob that wants to build a house with a nice view. And Tala is one of the #1 spots if you are a foreigner, perhaps having a holiday home built, or perhaps you're going to relocate to Cyprus on a permanent basis. Tala and I would say Paya are the two hot spots for foreign nationals. Primarily British, but of course there are other nationalities mixed in there as well. Russian, Ukrainian, German, French, Swiss. I have a customer who's half French and half German. There we go. There's a bit of a, yes. She's a lovely, lovely lady, although she's a bit confused sometimes, and on other times she's a little bit too honest, but there we go. Right, we'll drop it down this hill, and I think it's time for me to say thanks for watching. And of course, if you do like what you see, hit the like, click subscribe, and perhaps come back for a little bit more of my madness as I mosey on down, wiggle and waggle in and around the area of Paphos. And the next little video coming, if you like Paya, we're off to Paya, and then we're going to have a bit of a mosey on down, driving around Paya in the next video after that. So don't forget to keep coming back for Mr. Paul's madness, because now and again you might get to see something that you haven't seen before, and you might get to find a new route to go somewhere that you didn't know existed, especially if your name is Mr. Paul, all the way from Bristol, and you've got a rather nice white Honda HRV. And a big shout out to Miss Mo, that's his partner in crime. Thanks for watching, and of course we will see you again very, very soon indeed.